Hello and welcome to another Wizard Wants YGO video. In this video, I'm going to be doing part 2 of my explaining the extra deck of Dragon Link series. This time, I'm going to be talking about Link monsters. If you haven't watched the last video, it was uploaded about a month ago. I'm going to put up a title card for it, and you'll just be able to click the link. I recommend you watch that first, talking about the Synchro monsters. Even though it's a month ago and the format's changed, especially with Power of the Elements, I still think it's pretty relevant. There hasn't been too many changes to the Dragon Link extra deck in terms of the synchros. But getting into the Link monsters, I'm going to categorize it basically going from low to high, talking about the Link 1s all the way to the Link 5. And let's get started. If you see me looking down a lot, it's because I have the extra deck right here. So I'm going to be referring to that as I talk. So, first, you have the two Link 1s in the deck. You have Guard Dragon Pisty, and you have Striker Dragon. So, Striker Dragon's limited to 1, that's why you want to play 1. Guard Dragon Pisty, you never need more than 1. It's Striker Dragon's basically Pisty's new adoptive sibling, because LP and Agripane, the rest of the family, is banned. So I'm going to get into what these do and stop making bad jokes. So, Striker Dragon, when you summon it, lets you add a Boot Sector Launch from deck to hand. Boot Sector Launch is an incredibly helpful field spell. It lets you do two things. You can summon up to 2 rockets with different names from hand once per turn, or you can summon rockets from graveyard up to the difference of monsters your opponent controls to you. So if they control 4 monsters, you could summon up to 4 rockets from your graveyard with different names in defense mode. So very good in the grind game for sure. The other effect Striker Dragon has is it lets you destroy you target a card in the field and target a rocket in graveyard. You destroy that card on the field, add the rocket to hand. So where that can be really helpful is if you combo that with Rocket Recharger, you're able to then trigger the Rocket Recharger effect at the end of the chain. If you destroy a dark monster from the extra deck, like the Striker Dragon for example, then you can summon any other dark monster from your graveyard, including something like Borderland Dragon. So really cool combo, very basic Dragon Link. You definitely want to know this if you're planning to play the deck. Guard Dragon Pisties, pretty interesting card as well. If you set it up properly where you have 2 different Link monsters pointing to an empty monster zone, or the same empty monster zone, you're able to target a dragon that's in your graveyard or banish and special summon it to that zone. As well, just remember with Pisty, when it's face up in the field, you can only special summon dragon type monsters. So usually the way you're setting up your Pisty arrows is you have like a Link 2 with the 2 diagonal arrows in your extra monster zone. You have the Striker Dragon on the right, and then you have the Guard Dragon Pisty on the left. Other way you can have it set up, and this is if you don't have access to another level 4 lower dragon for the Striker, is you go that same Link 2 in your extra monster zone, you summon Pisty to left zone, then use another monster and the Link 2 into triple burst to give you that down arrow, so you can summon in that main monster zone directly below the extra monster zone. Things you want to summon off Pisty, you're usually looking to get back something like Rocket Tracer that can give you an extra monster, or you're summoning something like Chaos Ruler, where you can summon it from Banished, and then when you link it off again, it's going to go to Grave, and then you're going to have that 3000 attack beater to just special summon on your next turn. So those are your Link 1s. Getting into Link 2s, we're going to start with the Dragons. So you got Dragoon Knight Romulus. It's pretty self-explanatory why you play this. Dragon Ravine lets you dump a Destrudo or an Absroto Dragon, which will just help you extend your plays even further. As well, just keep in mind for Romulus, you can make it with Dragons or Winged Beasts. So if you have like a Wandering Griffin Rider that's dead because you don't have Venture Token, or you have like a DD Crow, you're able to use as one of the materials for this monster. Romulus also offers utility because you get locked into dragons with Pisty. You can link out the Pisty and the Striker Dragon, for example, go into Romulus, and then you get an extra card to hand, and you're able to summon non-dragon monsters. And it's a win, so you get an extra attribute for access code. Next, we have Hermetic Seal, the Heavenly Spheres. This card has gotten a lot better this format compared to last format. It has 2 effects. So when it's in your extra monster zone, you're able to tribute any monster either that you control or in your hand, and then you can, on resolution, return a card on the face-up card on the field to hand. So it doesn't target. That's pretty useful. You can bounce the normal summon from a Sprite player, and then if they have nothing else, you end their turn. But what's more important with this card is that it can tribute any monster, not just itself. But if it does get tributed, whether it's by that effect or any other effect, you can summon a dragon from deck, but its attack and defense is reduced to 0. So there's two cases where you would use that effect. One, where it's your opponent's turn, you use the Heretic Seal, tribute itself, you summon on resolution, something like an Abzerrouter, so you can get a rocket when they send it to grave. Or if it's your turn, you put up Heretic Seal, and then they Nibiru you, then you're able to summon a dragon from deck, something like a Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, that would help you extend further and still put up a pretty good board, even though you got Nibiru'd. Where the utility of this format really works is if you get Dark Ruler Impermed, the tribute is for cost, and you don't have to tribute itself. So what you can do is you have a Heretic Seal, they Dark Ruler, they normal summon whatever level 2 to start their sprite combo. You chain Fairy Tale Snow in your graveyard, summon it, flip to level 2. Then they activate Starter, summon a Sprite Blue, add the Jet to hand. You can use Heretic Seal effect, tribute the Fairy Tale Snow, and then it'll resolve that effect because it's negated. And then you just summon Snow again and flip the blue down. So they have 2 set monsters, and that's probably going to stop their plays pretty hard. Or you just save for the Gigantic Sprite. This is more talking about the Dragon Link side, not how to play against Sprite specifically, so that's just one use where Heretic Seal can have additional utility. The last dragon is Quad Boral Dragon. This one having a down arrow is interesting, and a left arrow, so if you have already gone through Striker Dragon or you aren't playing Triple Burst, this can help you set up your Pisty arrow. This one, just remember, it has to be 2 dragons and one of them has to be a rocket, but where this can be really useful is sort of the worst case scenario is you're discarding a card, you're popping itself, you're summoning 2 rockets, so you're getting like Tracer and Recharger back to go into like a Borreload Savage, for example. What's best case scenario, especially this was more prevalent when Tri-Brigade was a big deck in the format, is you pop your opponent's Link monster, let's say it's a Shurag, and then you're summoning up to 4 rockets from your graveyard in defense mode. Just keep in mind, after you've resolved this effect, you can't Link summon Link 2s or lowers, but that's still more than enough to get into like an Axis Code, Borreload Savage, and be able to just attack your opponent for game. Getting into the generic Link 2s, there's 3 that are prevalent right now. So the big offender, basically the best one, is Crystron Halqifibrax. You guys know what it does. It's 2 effects. The one that's more relevant is summoning the tuner from deck, level 3 or lower. So usually your targets are like Rocket Synchron, or if you're playing the adventure build, it's the Red Rose Dragon. A utility that Crystron Halqifibrax has in addition, so let's say you're at the point, you bricked a bit, you're playing Adventure Dragon Link, you have the Wandering Griffin Rider, and you have to use the token in your tuner to make Hulk. You try and use Hulk, they negate it, that's fine, it's still on the field. On your opponent's turn, you can use Hulk's effect in the main phase, tag out, summon the Shooting Riser, dump Fairy Tale Snow, then your Shooting Riser is level 3, and then use its quick effect to tune that in with the Griffin Rider into Bear into Flare. So that way you're not completely out of responses on your opponent's turn if they negate your Hulk. The other 2 cards, IP Masquerena and Dark, the Dark Charm of Gloomy. Dark is really good for extending this format because you are able to revive a Dark monster, and the 2 big decks this format, Sprite and Tearlament, are both playing plenty of Dark monsters, so you should have no shortages of targets there. As well, if it's destroyed by battle or by your opponent's card effect, so you can crash this into something with higher. You can search a Dark monster 1500 less defense, one of those being DD Crow, which is really helpful in this format, or if you're playing the more pure build, you can grab like a Chaos Dragon Levianeer, which is able to give you crazy advantage after you summon it, no matter what you banish. IP Masquerena has a similar utility to Heretic Seal, where I talked about with Fairy Tale Snow. You're able to summon so you'd basically have IP Masquerena out, you summon the Fairy Tale Snow, Snow effect, flip something face down, then you can link with the IP Masquerena and the Snow, go into like Nightmare Unicorn. The Unicorn effect, spin something else, and then you have the Fairy Tale Snow in your graveyard again. So, going into Link 3s, we just talked about it, Nightmare Unicorn. It's really here for 2 reasons. One, the utility of returning card to deck can be pretty good. As well, it being a Link 3, it's kind of like our regular climb to Axis Code in turn 3 for that OTK. The other thing we play is Triple Burst. I talked about it a bit when we were talking about Pisty Arrows. So the arrows on this and it being a dragon are one of the main reasons you play it. The other reason, it's got some neat utility where it deals piercing battle damage. So against like some of the stall decks like Crooked Cook, where you don't have an out to getting that, you can still continue to deal piercing damage and eventually win. Or against something like Dynamorphia, you can hit over one of their monsters in defense mode and get them for a game. The other effect is that if there's an effect activated by your opponent in the damage step, so like, or after like a damage calc, like a spell trap monster effect. So let's say you destroy a Sky Striker Link and they're attempting to revive Ray. Triple Burst is able to negate and destroy that card. And then it has one more effect where you can revive a Link 2, except on the turn of a summon, to summon a level 4 lower dragon from hand, but that never comes up. For Link 4s, you have basically the offensive option, the defensive option. Access codes, your OTK. You're usually making it with Nightmare Unicorn, but even if you make it with 4,300 attack, this deck has more than enough that you can put out to be able to make the OTK. You're playing a variety of attributes in your extra deck for Links. You have the Light off Heretic Seal, you have the Water off Christian Hulky Fibrax, the Wind off of Dragoon Romulus, and then you have like so many other dark monsters. So you have more than enough to be able to destroy your opponent's board and attack for game. Apollousa. Not every list plays Apollousa, but what you can do with Apollousa that's kind of cool is when you go into it, you have 3 down-facing arrows. As long as you have 1 level 4 lower dragon extender, you can just summon Guard Dragon Pisty to either the left zone or the middle zone where the arrows are, and then you have Pisty set up to be able to revive something, and you can just pop off even harder. Last card in the extra deck is Borderline Dragon. Borderline Dragon can be a really good card if you know its limitations. So keep in mind, the targeting protection is only against monster effects. So something like Sky Striker or Widow Anchor can still negate and steal the card, which is really annoying. As well, keep in mind that you have to have the Rocket Kit in Graveyard to be able to use the negate effect. So the summon's awesome, but just don't be playing this if you have no Rockets in your Graveyard, because that's not a great play. Also remember, this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. So lots of crazy effects on it. It's usually worth the investment, but just be careful, because playing this and like a Warlord Savage that plays right into Super Poly, whether they go into Starving Venom or Garura, and then they have one more card than they started with, and you are out 2 very powerful monsters. So that's what I have to say for the Dragon Link extra deck. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to put it in the comments. I'll try my best to answer your questions. I've been playing this deck for like 2 years, so I hope I know what I'm talking about, but obviously I still make mistakes with it, so don't be afraid to point something out if I got something wrong. If you liked the video, let me know, and I will see you in the next one.